Hey folks, in this video, I'm going to walk you through what Agentic AI actually is and why it's completely different from everything that you've seen so far before. So I am on ChatGPT right now and I'm going to try their agent mode as I talk through this for you. You can see I have a bunch of options to begin with. When I click on plus, I see agent mode, and then in the agent mode, I get a bunch of these suggested actions on top of what you can already do, which is create your own actions. I'm going to go to the presentation standpoint and I'm going to choose this option, develop a go-to-market strategy for robotic pet launch. Creates a prompt that is by default created by the OpenAI team, and we are going to be plugging this in right now. Now I know you've probably heard the term thrown around everywhere lately. Everyone's talking about AI agents this, AI agent that, and obviously you're taking this course, so you know the craze, or rather the topic is very hot. But here's the thing, most people are just using buzzwords without really understanding what makes agentic AI so revolutionary and what are the drawbacks of agentic AI system. Now I've been doing it for 3 years. I've been teaching AI for 3 years, and I know specifically Gen AI. I've been in AI for over 10, 11 years now, but I've been teaching Gen AI ever since it became mainstream. So let's break it down. First, what exactly is agentic AI? Well, think of it this way. Traditional AI is like having a really smart calculator. You ask it a question and it gives you the answer, and that's really it. You're still the one who has to take action based on the answer. Agentic AI is a bit more different than that. It's like having a smart assistant who doesn't just give you the answers but actually goes out and does things for you. It can browse the internet, click buttons, fill in forms, send out emails, make purchases, and handle complex multi-step tasks without you having to babysit it. The key difference here is the autonomy. Agentic AI systems can work independently towards specific goals. They can plan their own approach, adapt when things don't go as expected, and keep working until they complete the task for you. Let me give you some real world examples and you can see what I'm talking about right here. Now in this case, I told it to go ahead and build the comprehensive go-to-market strategy for the next gen robotic pet launch. It is going to go to the web. Now, if we had to build a presentation, we would follow a similar process, right? We would understand what we know about robotic pets. Based on that, we would create an outline for our presentation. Then now based on the outline, we're going to deep dive on each of the topic and create the slides for our presentation. So this is similar to what our thinking process also is, and this is what it's mimicking. It uses something called browser use, which is a revolutionary framework that kind of looks at the screen that you're looking at and finds out what buttons or what piece of the text on your browser means what. It is able to find out, okay, this is a button that I can click. Then if your task involves clicking the button, then it's going to take that action automatically for you. Take Comet Browser, which is yet another example by Perplexity. Now this is a very hyped browser, to be very honest, and I haven't used it because it has a waitlist, and if you don't want to be a part of the waitlist, you have to pay $200 to use the browser. But this uses I believe the browser use framework in the backend. It's built ground up to be agentic, and you can literally tell Comet to book you a restaurant reservation. It will navigate the restaurant websites, check availability, and actually make the booking for you. Now I wasn't able to test it myself, but for the people who have used it and what I've read on Twitter and actual user feedback on Reddit, they believe it's a pretty good browser to use. And I have used browser use. This is an open source framework, and I believe if Comet is built on top of this, then it should be able to do things like those which it claims. But it's very expensive to use because it's going to take every single screenshot and all your code, and it's going to send it to browser at all points of time, which kind of makes it very, very hard for the large language models. Cost wise, affordability wise, it becomes very, very hard. You can see at this point, our agent is creating the presentation for us. But in my real opinion, I think OpenAI's agent mode is where things get really interesting. You can tell ChatGPT to analyze competitors, create presentations. It doesn't just research and write content. It also kind of, uses presentation software. It generates images, as you see right here. It adds music. It adds transition in your presentation, which is going to be a huge thing for an end user like you. Now, in this case, I told it to create a presentation for next gen robotic pet market, and it's exactly doing that for me. Now, there are extensions like Olly Social, which also use agentic systems in order to make this work. So similar to what browser uses, Olly also works in a similar way. When it's on social media sites like on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, it's going to use its auto commenter in order to automatically engage with the audience in your niche. It's going to find out where it can comment. It's going to find out where it can click likes. It's going to find out what keywords you want to target, and it's automatically going to do all of that on autopilot on your social media. And here's where it gets very interesting. It doesn't just spam generic contents. It analyzes the content of each post, understands context and tone. It takes the brand voice that you have created for your own brand into consideration and makes your post or rather a comment bit more personal in nature. You can set up your preferences once and then it runs autopilot. You can also use it manually if you want, but the idea is that agentic systems allow you to do things way faster than if you would otherwise. Now, what makes all of these examples so agentic in nature is that they exhibit three key characteristics. First is autonomy. They can work without constant human oversight. You give them a goal and they figure out how to achieve it. They don't need you to tell them every step along the way. Second is adaptability. When they encounter obstacles or unexpected situations, they can adjust their approach. If a website layout changes or a form has new fields, they adapt instead of breaking. Third is goal-oriented behavior. They understand the end result you want and can plan backward from that goal to determine the best sequence of actions. This is fundamentally different from the generative AI we've been using until now. Generative AI creates content, agentic AI takes action. It's the difference between having an AI write you a business plan versus having an AI that actually starts a business for you. The potential applications are endless. Now imagine agentic AI that manages your entire email inbox, not just by sorting messages, but by actually responding to routines, inquiries, scheduling meetings, and following up on important conversations. And if you use ChatGPT's Agent Mode, you can do that. In fact, you can create your Gmail and set up a task that will automatically review your inbox on a daily basis and reply to the people who write you emails. So think about commerce, right? Instead of browsing through hundreds of products yourself, you could have an agentic AI that understands your preferences, compares options across multiple stores, read reviews, and actually makes purchases when it finds the best deals for you. But there are also challenges we need to be aware of. Agentic AI systems are more complex than traditional AI, which means there are more ways where things can go wrong. If an AI agent misinterprets your interactions or instructions or makes a mistake while taking actions on your behalf, consequences can be much more significant than just giving a wrong answer. Now, one of the examples here is Cursor's Claude Code, or one of the examples here is Claude Code itself, where it will automatically write code for you, and it also includes things like commands where your database can be wiped out. And I think this has happened to a few users in the past, where people give instructions to AI in order to create their code, and AI by mistake wiped out their entire database and user base per se. So these are challenges where it runs endlessly. And the other challenge that I have also faced is where, let's say if it fails on step A, it is going to obviously find alternatives to do that step, right? So B, C, D, E, right? And if it fails on all steps, it's going to go back to step A and execute all these steps again because it forgets the context that it has already gone through that step. Now that is because of the limited context window. And the problem here is that doing these steps again and again is going to be more expensive for you as a user. So from that standpoint, agentic AI is a bit more expensive to use, and security is also another major consideration, right? So when you give AI agent access to your browser, email, or other accounts, you're essentially giving it keys to your digital life. The companies building these systems are implementing safeguards, but it's not something to think about carefully. But it's something that you should think about carefully, right? Again, if you send a wrong email, it could be very harmful, and AI makes mistakes all the time. Despite these challenges, the benefits are compelling. Agentic AI has the potential to eliminate huge amounts of repetitive works from our daily basis. Instead of spending hours on routine tasks, we can focus on things that actually make us more creative. And over this course, you will use a few tools and experiment with a few tools that will help you either understand how you can use agentic AI, or you can build your own AI agents per se using Crew AI framework. Now, it gets a bit more developer oriented when you build AI agents in the later part of this course. But if you're genuinely serious about learning AI agents, you might want to push a bit more in order to reach a point where you're able to write code. It's going to be hard naturally, but if you are able to use the systems that I teach you during the course itself, it's going to be easy. If you have never written code, I would encourage you to not be afraid of code, because at the end of the day, it's just a language that machines understand. And I had never written code before GenAI, and today at this point of time, I think this is the best time for you to write code, generate code, work with external systems, and so on and so forth. So I think personally, I believe that if you feel that the last piece of where you build your own AI agents is a bit more tough for you, I would say push through, take your own time in order to learn the topics. If there are certain questions, ask your questions, but go through and build your first agent. When you reach the end point, you're going to be way more happier, as opposed to if you just decide to skip those midway or not pick up the topic per se. So again, you're learning something which is the top 1% of the tech right now. So it's not going to be easy, but if you push through, it's going to be rewarding at the end, and I promise you that. I'll see you guys in the next set of videos.